All right, welcome back to another episode of Kameo Podcast. This is the second one I've recorded today. Skirted on in a little bit, almost late. And like I said earlier, this is kind of a civic election podcast series that I'm doing. Whoever is willing to meet with me. And before I go any further, just so you're aware, Dale Bass and I used to work together. Mm-hmm. And so I'll be honest that I do have a personal relationship with her previously. But Dale, thanks for meeting with me.
Thanks, Nevin, for having me here.
Yeah, and so we were having a quick little chat about, media, because we're both obviously interested in media, and you shared that only the newspaper is doing an all-media forum, or it's not an all-media forum now?
No, it's a Kamloops This Week media forum.
It's Kamloops This Week media forum.
Yeah, other media opted to not participate, so I got an email today from the operations manager saying that they're setting it up. Can we come? They're going to do a different format so that candidates get more than one question in the 2-hour period.
Absolutely.
Which will be interesting to see. And I'm glad they're doing it because this is important. I don't understand why the other media won't do it because even if it does seem a little hackneyed and crazy and silly, it engages people and it reminds people there's an election.
Yeah, because, you're currently probably figuring out where you're going to invest your marketing dollars or whatever it be, right? And you have to hit people on multiple mediums all the time, right?
Yes.
You can't just do one.
No.
Right? And that's coming from someone who used to work at newspaper, right?
Yeah.
And loves digital, right?
Yeah.
If you're reaching someone, reach them where it works, right?
Yes.
And so it's a little bit strange.
Yes, it is, especially for me. Because the most engagement I'm getting right now, other than person to person, is on Facebook.
Absolutely.
And I thought Facebook was passé, but it's not.
It's not, especially in the demographic that votes.
Yes.
It's starting to be maybe passé in my demographic.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because I don't really know where to go next, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Instagram isn't really a place to have a conversation.
Not at all.
Right?
No.
You can chat in the DMs, but it's not really. It's not Twitter, which is like Twitter had its heyday in Kamloops maybe in 2015.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's purely journalists and the odd candidate who's popping up now.
Yeah. Although ironically, my campaign team. Let me start again. I was banned from Twitter for 3 weeks.
Oh, yes.
Because
Ann Coulter thing.
I actually called Ann Coulter what I thought was an appropriate adjective, which is apparently a banned word in the Twitterverse. And my team was having a meltdown. You have to get back on Twitter. You have to apologize. Well, I wasn't apologizing. So in the end, I just had to delete the tweet to get back on. But as they're saying, you have to stop. Don't do this, Joe. You have to get back on Twitter. I kept thinking, why? Because much like some of the other forums that I've been looking at, it tends to be the same people talking to each other.
It's Arjun, and there's now Allison Cly on there, but there's no one else. There's no one.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's the water cooler of the internet.
Yes.
But Kamloops is so invested in Facebook.
Yeah, they sure are.
And that's terrifying because, I had some issues with Facebook a couple times and got my pages taken away, and you don't want to bombard people all the time with information. So what happens if all of a sudden your whole livelihood is just and they don't tell you why?
No, they just shut you down. I know. But it speaks to the problem that the media industry is having right now because it's being overrun by social media, and the rules aren't clear there. The rules are clear. In a newspaper, we have a code of ethics that we follow, whether it be written or within ourselves. Mm-hmm. We apologize for mistakes. We correct things. If we're going to ban an advertiser, we tell them why, and it's usually because they haven't paid in about 17 months.
Yeah, they're pretty loose with their billing.
But the rules are clear there. Like with Twitter, I was stunned because Alex Jones was still on Twitter. Now, if there's anyone who's more evil than me, it's Alex Jones.
He's gone now.
I know, but it took
a while.
It took a while, and it was kind of an interesting thing, particularly for me because I'm a self-described Luddite. I don't get a lot of this stuff because I grew up in another generation.
A Luddite, for people who don't know, is people who more or less reject technology.
I don't reject it; I just don't get it. In some cases, but I'm getting better at it, and at least know that it is another vehicle that people use, especially in Kamloops. They like their Facebook. I use Facebook to keep tabs on my kids. Yeah. Oh yeah, because I have some kids in Ontario. Oh, I see what they're doing today. Yeah.
It's challenging because part of the reason why I wanted a podcast is A, I'm hoping the powers that be are not scraping it and doing audio translations and learning about me or whatever it be, right? Because that whole, world where, they skewed the democracy down south, whether people believe that or not, I'm very confident it happened.
Yeah.
Is like, how do you have an honest conversation if you no longer have a platform?
I know. Yeah.
But, Kamloops likes their stuff, and, you were sharing, to just completely caveat or badly segue to something, you were sharing that your husband got fired while you were pregnant, and that was an issue that I'm currently kind of going with as I'm hustling to try and work as a self-employed person, and so clearly you've gone through some struggles and you're still around. And
well, but to be fair, though, he was management, I was head of the union. He was no longer a good corporate fit, so they said goodbye. He sat at home for a while and tried to figure out what he was going to do, and literally one day he got up and said, I'm going to go get a job, bye, and he came back an hour later with a job at a university, so that was fine, and it was strictly a political thing.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
I relate.
Yeah, it's really, really hard. And that's one of the things that I'm talking about in the campaign is the fact that we need to bring better jobs here. My second youngest just moved back home. He lost his job. He couldn't survive on minimum wage, 32 hours a week. Mm-hmm. He moved back home. He's going to university now. But he kept saying, how am I supposed to live, Mom? I want to live on my own, but how do I do it at this minimum wage? It's not a living wage.
Totally.
Yeah, so it's hard. I hope you do well.
Well, thank you. And to build on that, though, like, I question if university or post-secondary education is for everyone too, right? Like, I can look at many of my friends who've done it, and they're smart people, but they're still making not that much.
Yes.
My wife's going like, Nevin, you're only making $12 an hour. I'm like, well, not really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have a university degree. It's not like it's a golden ticket
not
to getting
anymore.
A good job.
No.
What sort of like industries do you kind of want to see in Kamloops kind of prosper or grow? Because as a resource-based industry, traditionally,
we need to move on from that. Ironically, after calling myself a Luddite, one of the things I think that we can grow is the Innovation Center. I think we need to have a bigger one. I think it needs to be a real hub. I think it needs to be well designed so that young people like you are comfortable in it. And that's one of the things this city doesn't do when it builds a building. They still think in old-fashioned style. Like there's a building in Vancouver, the Deloitte building, where they have bike racks, and they have an open concept. So that you can, if you want to sit on a couch, you sit on a couch to do your job. They have an exercise room. They have the amenities that young people and young entrepreneurs are attracted to. We don't have that here. Even at the Innovation Center, it's slightly open.
Yeah.
But I think it could be so much bigger. I think if we moved it into the university corridor, and saw a partnership between it all, I think that would be a really thriving enterprise that we could really grow on. And when we bring young people here and we pay them properly, they buy houses. That boosts the economy. They put their kids in school, that boosts enrollment. It just all makes sense to me that if we could just bring better jobs here.
Well, there is a partnership between the TRU and the community. There's the generator.
Yeah, the generator.
Right, and so like I've been kind of keeping tabs on Kick for years now, because I've gone through a program with them where they took a chance on me when I was still in university, right? So like they're practicing what they preach, right? They're working with what they've been given,
yes,
or what they've got,
yes,
right? So it's a little bit of like, well, they could try and raise more capital or whatever it be, but.
Well, I'd like to see the city get involved in some way to move it up a couple of steps, or maybe an entire flight of stairs.
Yeah.
Because that's the future. Like, well, what have we been talking about? We're talking about social media and innovation. That's what we've been talking about since we started talking.
Yeah.
And it is a really growth industry that attracts younger people. Mm-hmm. And that's how you grow your city. Absolutely.
But you can also look at like the fact that they've been saying they're going to be doing renovations for years and years and years at the Innovation Center, and they finally just this week started doing something that is visible, right? And they had like a winter where there's buckets, collecting the melt water.
Yeah, I know.
Right? This is supposed to be the most tech-based company, right? And they don't have a roof over their heads that doesn't leak, right?
Yep.
So it's
Kelowna's got a really good innovation hub right downtown. Young people pour out of it every day to go to restaurants. That feeds the economy. They've got a nice environment there. The city was really heavily involved in seeing that established, and that's what we need to do. I think there's a little bit too much of, oh, well, let's just see what happens, and maybe we'll help out later.
Yeah. Now, do you think it's because the city council has kind of always been kind of an older demographic traditionally in terms of like who's on the council, or?
Well, I don't think so, because like I'm of that older demographic.
Yeah.
Although I keep saying I'm 63 going on 36. I think it's just that in recent years, city council has become complacent. Mm-hmm. They spend more time talking about chickens and dogs than they do about anything else. And that's that's an exaggeration, but nevertheless, they do spend a lot of time talking about chickens and dogs. And they don't talk about the bigger issues, at least not publicly. And if they're talking about it privately, then we don't know what's happening and we don't know what they're doing.
And that's coming from someone who's worked in the media industry in town for 20 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Administration at City Hall is not the most open to the reporters. They definitely were never particularly open to me, but then I've been fairly critical over the last several years. Some of them are great. Some of them have, one in particular just doesn't acknowledge my existence, and that's okay.
Interesting.
But I think that with many bureaucracies, they forget, especially a government bureaucracy, they forget they're public servants. They forget they're there to serve the public. And I think council falls into that too. They become not public servants, but administration servants. And I think we need to change that. I think we need to see more engagement between the council and real people, and not just at public hearings and not just at election time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So. It's interesting seeing you take, like, I can see your journalistic morals coming into play here, right? Like you can tell it's not, you're not in it for the money. You don't have a fancy business or whatever. B, It's just like,
you
know, you are retired, right? You know, you're still as prickly as ever.
But you know how I did my journalism. I mean, there are three people in the city who's I won't pick up the phone if they call. That's it. I'll talk to anybody.
Yeah.
I'll listen to anybody. I've talked to people for hours and hours, and there's never been a story there, but they needed somebody to listen to them. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I helped fix problems, and we never did stories, and that was good.
Yeah.
So that's a skill set that is easily transferable into city council.
Totally.
You know, talk to people, find out what their problems are, see if you can fix them. If you can fix them, yay. And if you can't fix them, explain to them why you can't. Mm-hmm. And that's the step that maybe doesn't happen all the time. You just can't do it. Well, why not?
Yeah. Well, but you can also see, like, the public, you can see it easily on Facebook where people are, like, looking at, like, the North Shore Bay and the Shore rebrand and, like, who's paying for this, blah, blah. It's like, well, it's the businesses. Yeah. Like, come on, guys. It's right in the actual article. Please take one step beyond Facebook.
Yeah,
please read it.
Please read, yeah.
You know. Yeah. And hopefully, you know, because there's always the younger demographic who doesn't want to actually read.
Yeah, a lot of them don't.
You know, and the older, a lot of them. But, like, hopefully they take that next step and they actually, you know, vote in this election.
Yeah.
At the very least, go to the polls, and if you say you don't want to vote for anyone, at least you've done your civic duty.
Well, you see, that's a really strange thing, because the lowest voter turnout is always municipal. But what touches your day more?
Totally.
It's not Ottawa, and it's not Victoria. It's the city council. It's a municipality, because that's buses, that's police, that's streets, that's potholes, that's sewers, that's water, that's recycling. It's everything that touches you every single day, and yet only 22% voted in the last by-election. And I think in the last municipal election, it was like 31% or something, and I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's still abysmal, no matter what.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't take long. Get off your butts and go out and vote. Take 5 of your friends with you, or in my case, just take most of my family. You know, but yeah, I never understand that. People complain and complain, but they don't get off their butts and vote.
No. Yeah. If you can't complain, don't vote.
Exactly.
Oh, no, sorry. If you don't vote, you can't complain.
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I criticize, I should try to be part of the solution, right? I
exactly.
know. Yeah.
You've made a career of criticizing, and now you're throwing your hat in the ring.
Yeah.
You know, when did that decision come about?
It's little inklings of it popped up last year.
Yep.
And then I talked to some friends over the last many months, and they all went, "Oh my God, please do it!" And can I say, "Oh my God"?
Dude, you can swear if you want. There's no regulation of this, right? Alex Jones has his pedestal that he stands on.
Okay, so it actually started to firm up seriously in the spring, mm-hmm. And we started working on it, me and my team, in the summer. And to be honest, when I really knew that I was making the right decision was when I found out that Kamloops This Week wasn't replacing me with a reporter, but with a sponsored content writer. And
Which I was slightly involved in a way.
Oh, were you? Well,
not really.
I will
but
forgive you for that.
That was kind of in my realm, right?
Yeah, well, I'll forgive you for that. But what it told me is that I'm an old-style journalist, and it's a new-style journalism. And that was like the final penny dropping to say, yeah, this is the right thing to do, Dale. Yeah. So I waited until the day before I retired, and I announced then, and because what are they going to do, fire me? Yeah. And then we've just been going ever since. Yeah, and I don't mean to be denigrating about the job, because it's a valuable job, and I understand why they're doing it, because it's hard to make money in a newspaper model these days. But it was just a sign to me that it's time for me to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that, and the newspaper will certainly miss you. And one of my biggest criticisms of the newspaper and of the other journalists is they haven't wanted to develop the personality that you have through the newspaper.
Well, it takes time to do that.
Well, it takes time totally, but you've always been willing to be, put on that hat and be that personality where there's some sort of like, no, I'm a journalist, right? I can't have a personality in the city sort of thing, right? It's journalist first, right? Where you are able to balance both somehow.
Yeah.
And I really hope that, someone takes the step and develops that personality, because that's where my generation is connecting with people.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Whether it be YouTube or podcasting, Instagram or whatever, right? Like, it is personalities. Yeah. And we do need someone who has your integrity.
Thanks.
Right? In this new age, in a new medium or whatever it be, right? Or the integrity of a journalist, right? And I'm not one. I just document, I just record, and that's why I don't edit.
Yeah.
Right? If I edited, now I'm changing your narrative to some degree, and I don't have that background. And that's a criticism that I've always taken from the journalists, going, Nevin, you're not a journalist. I'm like, no. But just because I'm not a journalist doesn't mean I can't document something.
Well, you're still a communicator.
Yes.
The reason I have this image in the city is because I quickly realized that the only way you're going to get to know people in the city is if you get off your butts and go out and talk to people.
Yeah.
So I've been on a lot of boards, and if Kamloops This Week was doing an event, if I could go, I went. I did a lot of farmers markets this summer, and I do that. It's harder for younger people to do that because they see it as work. Whereas I saw it as community involvement. Yeah. And the younger journalist now has a better work-life balance than I ever had as well. I'm still a reporter 24/7. Even in my head right now, I'm still a reporter in my mind. I see stories and things all the time. I just don't bother doing anything about it right now. And it's not easy for a young person to find the extra time to go do that stuff.
Yeah. Gone are the days of like the live action news cam, grab your camera and jump in a helicopter, right? But that's happening at the same time, right? And how do you turn that off, or how do you jump on that? And we can see, the competing Glacier product come on in and kind of kick the butts in gear a little bit there, but they've kind of fallen back from what I can see, right? And I think it's a weird place in town right now when we have Info News, doing the stories online now, right? And all the different takes, right? You got Kamloops BC Now, who's basically being written out of Kelowna.
Yep. And none of them are engaged with the community, really.
Oh, is replying to a comment with a GIF an engagement?
It isn't.
It isn't. No. And when I had Kamloops This Week's Facebook account in control of it, and I did that I got immediately in trouble with Tim Petrick, and then I see. Yeah. Someone posting about Dennis Walsh, he's Batman as the comment. I'm like, whoa. Is it, are we now into this clickbait world? Like
I don't know.
I laughed, right?
See, with me, what I prefer to do is just to get out and talk to people, and that's what I've always liked to do. I like to get out and listen to people just as much as talk to them. Because, like I used to tell the kids, everybody has a story. Sometimes you have to shut up and wait for it to come out. You can't always go in knowing what it's going to be. I've had many times where I've gone in thinking I was going to do this story, and I end up doing that story, or no story, or 3 stories. And I find even now, today, just before you got here, I was having lunch with a person and was telling me a lot of different things that are going on. And like, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I need to know this and this and this and this. Boy, this person's a wealth of knowledge. I'm just going to shut up and let her keep talking to me.
Yeah.
And make notes and it'll help me in my campaign. But you have to. We don't all know everything, and we have to listen to other people.
Totally.
And that's what I've been trying to do all along, and that's what I'm still trying to do.
Yeah, and I think the organic nature of things, right? It just reveals itself.
Yeah, it does.
Right, and the previous conversation I had with Chris Boise, we found out we worked at the same place, and I actually bought liquor from him when I went back to go see my old. So when I left the liquor store to go to Kamloops this week, I went back to the liquor store to see if I could see my old coworkers, and I ended up buying a can of beer from Chris, and it's like, and we related on that level, right?
Oh, sure.
Just yesterday, I was alluding to this in the conversation with Chris, is the Nationalist Club wanted me to do some stuff for them on Facebook Live, right? And that's a highly contentious thing right now. Yeah. And I was lucky that, a mentor of mine said, whoa, Nevin, is that good for you?
Yeah.
Is that really right? And because it's now removing my power of just having a conversation into this, like, caveat of, like, now I'm given scripted questions.
Yes.
And whether or not I agree or not, I'm now pushing someone else's agenda versus just, like, parsing record and let's see where we end up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you knew it. You would know they were coming in with a specific message, whereas you have absolutely no idea what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I have no idea what you're going to ask.
No.
Yeah.
No. And like
I know.
I have had some ideas of like, and I asked my wife, I was like, should I ask this? And she's like, yeah, that seems fine. And I know I can come out and ask it to you, right? And because I thought it was hilarious when you shared that you're now running for city council, and I think I was the first person to like your Facebook page.
You were.
And
you were.
I saw Chris Folds in Kamloops this week as the profile picture. That was changed within a few hours.
And you know what? It didn't bother me that it was there at all. And one of the problems that the campaign team had is I don't like having my picture taken, so there weren't a lot of pictures. It didn't bother me, but then two candidates called up and said, fundamentally, so is she going to get preferential treatment?
I knew that was coming.
And I think that belittles the media, especially the newspaper.
Well, it was funny because I know Tara Holmes then posted the picture of the bear and just happened to be on the opinion page where you had your vote Bass, and I knew you didn't have control over that, and I knew
I didn't even know she'd done it.
Right? And I knew that Chris Folds wrote your piece because Jessica Wallace would look up to you. Right.
And you're right there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at him like, okay, so yes, there's a little bit of bias. I have Chris Folds, but I know Jessica is going to look up to you because you've been a mentor to her for all these years.
And Chris was hard on the questions. But let me go back to why we changed the picture. Because we had the two things, and I got into a conversation with one of the candidates about it in particular. I said, I don't see your point. However, since you've raised this point, other people are going to see that point. So we'll take it down, even though I don't agree with you. Because it's probably I don't agree with you because I know the ethics of the newspaper. I was stunned that I was even mentioned in a story because I figured they would go out of their way to not look like they were favoring anything I said or did. And I expect that because that's what I would have done too.
Yeah.
So we changed it. I had another picture taken. We put it up, and it was a strange moment, but it also speaks to how. I'm so inside baseball. I understand the media, and other people don't, and I could see why they thought that way.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with Tara, I haven't been there since Friday. I stopped in to buy some ads, but and I am doing Raise a Reader, and she probably did that, and I suspect that somebody will say to her, that was not the smartest thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
But that's out of my control. I can't help that.
No,
Tara's
totally.
a friend. That's the other problem. Tara, they're my friends. You're my friend. They're my friends. And it's harder. And I keep saying, don't treat me like a friend, please. Treat me like the bitch I can be, right?
Well, and that was my point to my wife is like, should I bring this up? And I knew there wasn't some like deep dark conspiracy or whatever it be. I just knew that sometimes that works out, and some people will take it badly. And you know what? If my opinion is, if more people start chatting about the civic election and more people start giving a shit,
exactly.
And more people go to the polls and
Yeah.
we beat 32%, or
That'd be nice.
if we get 45%,
That'd be great.
50%,
That'd be, yeah.
you know, like my generation has so much to lose right now,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had so much. I don't want to be a complainer and say stuff has been taken away from us, but opportunities just are not there.
No, they're not.
So that's why I'm going to do something about it.
Good.
How I can.
Well, yeah.
And
this is a start. You're
Yeah,
still
thank
out
you.
there doing stuff.
Well, you were actually one of my bigger supporters when I first started this back when I was still at my previous job.
Yeah.
And I forget what happened, but someone was saying something along the lines of like, you know, I can't forget what it is, and I said, nope, my generation is going to be loud and clear, yelling at bullhorn. And you're like,
Yeah.
damn right.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah. I have a 24-year-old son. I have 5 kids, but I have a 24-year-old son. And when the government was bringing in some contentious bill, I can't even remember what it was, C-51, I think, Liam decided he was going to do something about it. So he talked to a few of his friends, and he got his bullhorn, and he said, let's have a rally at Kathy McLeod's office. And 350 people showed up.
Yeah.
And he stood there going, oh, my God, Mom, what have I done? And I said, honey, you did good.
Yeah.
You know, and that's good to see. With you. I did that in my generation, and you guys are doing that in your generation. Although an awful lot of you are also pedaling really fast just to keep up.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right? Like I got to hustle hard. You know,
Yeah.
I got a pair of skis that I'm selling to, you know, make ends meet, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people like to look down on the millennials as the entitled, but who made us entitled?
And you're not really entitled at
And
all.
we're not really entitled
No.
at all.
No.
Right?
No. It's
We're-
hard to be your age now.
Yeah, it's totally hard.
Yeah.
And I hope that it builds a better generation out of us, because I think we have a little bit more empathy.
Yeah.
I would like to think so.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But-
You have great potential, too. Your whole generation has massive potential.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
internet has opened up so much
Yeah.
to us, right? And as a self-described Luddite, I hope you have someone who's willing to take your hand and teach you the different avenues of communication,
Oh, yeah, I've got great people doing it.
which, you
Yeah.
know, I imagine you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got one person who apparently lives in the cloud.
Who lives in the cloud.
Yeah, she works for TELUS, and I don't understand anything that she says to me. My oldest son is a techie. He worked for Hewlett-Packard for years, and I have no idea. I usually just step back and say, okay, whatever, just do it, and then explain to me in English what you just did.
Yeah.
Whenever I break my laptop or something like that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a whole different experience.
We're in a world where if you don't know how to do something, just find someone who knows how to do
Exactly.
it. Right? You don't need to be good at everything. Be
No.
good at what you're good at.
Yeah.
And what you've always been good at is not shutting your fucking mouth.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right?
Yeah, pretty much.
You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny. I'm watching the levels, right? And you know, I set them where we were talking, and it's getting louder and louder, right? And I can hear you being more engaged in this
Yeah,
conversation.
'cause it's-
And so, like, I'm fixing the levels and whatever it be. And hope, you know, it should turn out fine
Yeah.
in the end. But
It's very loud here right now, though.
it's getting more loud. But luckily, the microphones are pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
You know,
Well, I trust you.
Oh, thank you.
You know what you're doing. I don't.
I don't know why. Ironically, like, you always kind of let me kind of like live in my own little world and never really got in like my face or my way in terms of like when I tried to do something. You always kind of like in your own way kind of just said, I'll let him be, and support it in that way, and I appreciated that.
Well, do you remember when you had the Facebook meeting with the newsroom?
No, yes.
I said to Chris Folds, I'm not going.
Yeah.
I will just be a pain in the butt because I don't understand it, okay? I use it to keep track of my kids. I post pictures once in a while, not nearly enough. So I'm not going because it would be a waste of time for Nevin and me. So I didn't go.
Hey,
You
it's
know?
fine.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, and actually I remember in that thing I'm like saying like either we need to adapt or I need to find a new job.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was pretty upfront with people on it, and I got a little bit more aggressive or
Yeah, I heard.
than I probably could have, but because
Yeah.
that's the way I was feeling. It's like,
Yeah.
I just took a 45% pay cut, right? And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I need to make something happen, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I'm not going to go down fighting or
No.
without a fight or,
Yeah,
or
I know
whatever
what you
it be,
mean.
right?
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
when you look out in Kamloops, just around, what are your top 3 things that if you could snap your fingers and change, what would they be?
Jobs, more jobs, better focused jobs, jobs. Reassessing the tax base that hits small business people. I'm not talking about the Walmarts of the world. I'm talking about the Fratellis of the world, because they're paying residential tax. They're also paying an even higher tax on their business. I think that's hard, to treat them that way. So that's the second one. And I think the third thing is just, and people keep saying, what do you see Kamloops like in 20 years? Well, I'd like to see it kind of like what it is now, only just bigger. Like, just don't lose. I'm from a large city in Ontario. I go back, and it's cold, and it's fast, and it's rude, and it's very white.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's like an amoeba that keeps growing. And it loses some of its humanity, I think. And I'd just like to see that not happen here. That's all. So that would be that. That would be basically
How do you think Kamloops can grow bigger when we're already like where do we grow?
We grow in the university corridor. We grow in supporting our youth and our young people. We grow in how we view our future. We have to start looking at it not from the past, but from the future. We have to start planning for the future. And I know they say they do that, and I'm sure they believe they do that, but I believe they do it from a 2 feet firmly planted in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't really explain it any more clearly than that. It goes back to complacency.
Yeah.
And a lot of, we don't do it that way. Why not? And it's not just at City Hall. I've been on a lot of boards and a lot of agencies and dealt with a lot of people who say, well, we don't do that. Why not? I don't know. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I guess I'm the why not. That's my whole thing. Why not try these things?
Yeah, just give them a shot, right?
Yeah, See.
I think there's a lot of things that they really don't take any extra effort than just a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Right? Why not rebroadcast the City Hall meetings on Facebook?
Sure.
Why not?
Why not meet the night sometimes so people can actually go? Why not? We have a safety committee. We have a heritage committee. We have a disabilities committee. Why not an LGBTQ committee? Why don't we have that? Because they have that community has its own concerns. Why don't we have one of those at City Hall? We don't. Let's make one. That's just that kind of thinking.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's about it.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's me.
That's you.
That's me.
Prickly Dale.
I'm not that prickly.
No, you're not.
I know. I just like to pretend I am.
Do you think you like to pretend that because that was part of your journalist image?
I think I did it because sometimes I had to be that way.
Yep.
And one of the things I've done a lot of really hard stories in the last few years, mostly opioid stories. And the one thing, and I don't want to sound like I'm bragging here, but in the way I am. One thing that most of those moms said to me is that they immediately trusted me because I seemed human. And human people can be prickly sometimes too, and they can be sad sometimes. And I approach those stories in particular like a mom.
Yeah.
But I'm also very opinionated, and I don't suffer fools very easily. Which is unfortunate, but it's just the way I am. It's the way I grew up. So, yeah, I'm really a nice person. I'm really a very, very nice person.
No, and I can attest to that. I can, and you just put up your barrier, right?
Yeah.
To when you have to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Where do you think you're? I'm in this interesting thing where I look at people in the local communities. Online presence, and I compare it to their clout in person.
Okay.
And trying to figure out how that all bridges over and what it be. How do you think it's going to work for you translating your newspaper personality into kind of this city councilor personality?
It's the same skill set. It's a totally same skill set. Ask questions, get answers, keep pushing till you get the answers, then tell people. Tell the people who you have to tell. So, if I'm on City Council and somebody comes to me with an issue, I had one raised today about apparently the city wants to move the Salvation Army food truck from its location at the old Daily News property to down by the Crossroads Inn. Mm-hmm. Well, this makes no sense to me. So I think I would like to ask questions like, why are you doing this? What's your rationale? Explain to me how this is good, because I don't think it is good. And then go back to the people who raised it with me and say, well, this is what I've heard. What do you have to say?
Why are they wasting their breath talking about it in the first place?
I don't know. I just heard about it today.
That's kind of like the whole chickens and dogs situation.
Yeah, I know. So I heard about it today. So I emailed some people who are involved in it and asked basically, what are you doing? Why is this happening? And then I'll get answers, and then I'll go back to the people who raised it with me and explain it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very sane. That's what I did in the newspaper. I asked questions, got the answers, and explained it to the people who were reading the paper. So it's the same skill set. It's the same job. It's just a different approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we both come from Ontario, and you've always been outspoken about the ward system.
Yeah.
Is that something that you really do want to see happen here in town?
Yeah, but it won't happen for at least another 8 years.
8 years. Why is that?
Well, first of all, City Council has a vested interest to vote against it because some of them would not be able to be reelected. And they're not ready at this point to acknowledge the fact that this is a large city. I mean, we're pushing six figures in population. Mm-hmm. Once we go over that, they're going to have to start dealing with it because they keep talking about the downtown center. But where we live in Dallas, there's a mobile park right beside us. When we moved there in 2000, there were 8 mobiles there. There are over 200 now. They are building houses out by the wildlife park. The city is growing. Mm-hmm. And at some point, they're going to have to realize it. And it happened at the forum on Saturday. Dennis Walsh stood up and said, I think maybe we get to this point where we need a ward system because I don't know what's going on in Raleigh. He says, I don't know what's going on in Heffley. I'm not, and so it's a slow thing. I've just been pushing it because I grew up in a ward system and I know we have to do it at some point. But the city's not ready to get to it yet because that's not what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we will.
Yeah, I never understood their focus on the downtown core. Like there's something in like the bylaws or something saying like if you are a bank, you have to have an office downtown.
Yeah, I know there's something like that, yeah.
Or
well, the
like
CAM plan is very downtown centric. And again, going back to where I live, they built a truck stop out there probably 16 years ago. And it was going to be a big development site. And it's still just the truck stop and the Denny's and all that land sitting there. Nobody's there, and in 16 years, you'd think somebody would have built out there. So I'm curious about that as well. There were 3 motel proposals that came along. What happened to them? Why didn't they want to build there? Were they told they had to go downtown? Were they told they had to go someplace else? Was the development process so hard they just said, screw it, I'm gone? I don't know.
Yeah, Kamloops has this weird notion of not being business friendly, and that's not one person, that's many people saying that.
I hear that too, yeah.
And how do you change that? Like
you become business friendly.
But how do you change the perception of being business friendly? Like what is honestly stopping from businesses from coming here?
I still think it's the development process. I have a friend who wants to expand his business. I think he's on his 7th 5-week assessment of his plan. So what's that? More than half a year is he's taking to get his expansion plan approved through City Hall. Every time he has to come back with a new application because if the 5 weeks are up, he has to pay more money. So it's costing him a lot of money. It's taking him a whole lot of time, and all he wants to do is expand his business a bit.
And that expansion would mean he'd have to hire more people, I imagine, too.
Oh yeah.
Not including the construction or whatever else he's...
Well, he had a business that wanted to move into his building, but because it's not zoned for it, even though it's a business that would support his business.
Yeah.
Well, the city said no, they can't go there. So, all right, And maybe there are really good rules, but if this is a subsidiary business supporting a major business in a large building, look at the zoning. Deal with it. I don't know. I just know that he's pretty frustrated because he spent about this was last month, so he spent at least 8 months trying to get his development plan just to expand approved. Talked to somebody else who says that it cost them almost $90,000 to get a development plan approved for a brand new building.
Jesus.
That is already built. That's an LED building, I've heard. I hear these things all the time because I have friends who are small business people.
Yeah.
I have a developer friend who says he won't build downtown. It's just too hard and it's not worth it.
So is it city council that's getting in the way, or is that the actual city?
It's admin. It's admin's rules. The rules. I think you get rules in place and then people forget to review them, and then they become not rules but carved in stone.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to do a whole deep review of everything that's happening in City Hall to try to, and other council candidates are talking about this too, to try to make it easier for developers to come in and develop, to bring people and jobs to the city, to sell houses and add to the revenue and help the city grow. Mm-hmm. It just makes sense to me.
Yeah, especially because you have all the lower mainland exodus coming here.
Oh, yeah.
They're taking what jobs that we don't have in the beginning place, and I always say that jobs are easy to find, but that's because I'm in sales, and there's always going to be a sales job there, but it's a tough job to do, right? Not everyone has that ability.
No, I know. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I couldn't be a journalist.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we're made to do what we do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you kind of want to chat about?
No, I'm good. This is good. This has been good to see you again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So we're just around the 40-minute mark. Be
Okay.
sure to check out Dale online. Read any news organization that is sharing about anything on the civic election. Get informed. If this helped in any little way, I really hope it did. Please tune in next time. And Dale, you want to share anything else?
No, I just want to thank you for doing this, Nevin.
Perfect. Well, I'll try and get this out pretty quickly because I'm just going to try and pump them out as fast as I can. Because, like I was complaining about earlier, is why not?
You'll get it done.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with me, Dale. And till next time, guys, please maybe consider subscribing or sharing with someone that might benefit from this. And cheers. Bye-bye.